coffee.
You want to see my trick where I deep throat this whole thing and come out with the tube's empty? No, maybe not.
Hello, friends. Welcome to User Friendly.
That was a very welcoming hand
whimsical. My name is Roberto Hoyos, and I am the creator of Throwboy. I'm here with my friend.
Everyone, Elijah, currently with so much delicious otter pop in my mouth.
Yeah.
And you might know me from the Cultcast podcast. Welcome to User Friendly.
User
the
Friendly.
Video version of... Just keep going. No, you go. No, you go.
I go, you go, you go, I go.
No, I'm just saying smile.
User Friendly is a weekly show where we talk about tech news and we talk about our favorite things on the web and all things geek. So we're back here again on Airfon's lair.
That's what I call it.
And
welcome to Airfon's lair.
And we're having ourselves some ice lollies.
Oh, is that what you called them?
No.
Okay.
That's what they're called.
I wish that is what you called them.
I think they're called that like every place. So if we have international viewers,
really?
They're like, oh yeah.
Ice lollies. We call these otter pops, even though they're not otter pops.
Yeah.
Those otter pops are a specific brand.
And they have like faces on them and stuff.
Yeah, they have like fun flavors and stuff. But
yeah, this is
I bought this ginormous bag.
They're basically just frozen sugar water. We're getting down on it.
I'm telling you, these are like my favorite things ever. I bought this huge bag, and I've been eating all of them.
Dude, I've done that before. When I lived in like the old place I lived.
Yeah.
Like I think it was the first time I had like my, own apartment, and I just stocked up. Like I bought the worst stuff you could buy.
Oh, yeah. You had like a hot dog for dinner.
Yeah, Hot Pockets and stuff.
Hot Pocket. And then you had like otter pops for dessert.
Yeah, it's like
they're so
this
good.
This is like a fruit group, right?
Yeah. I wonder why I have a B cup. I can't get rid of these moves.
You really are like. You always bring that up. Do you feel like that, like whatever it is, the bad ingredients in food will like?
I do. Yeah, I feel like when I see people.
What is your theory? I don't know this.
I saw this girl. I don't really have a theory. I think it's just common sense. I saw this girl the other day, and she was like super duper overweight. And I'm not saying this to be mean, right? But she was probably a deuce. Deuce and a half, 250 pounds, maybe.
Yeah.
And she was drinking this giant
Mountain Dew.
No, she was drinking this giant Starbucks Frappuccino with this much whipped cream in the top.
Let me stop you. On Tumblr, I just saw like a frap, with like tons of whipped cream, and then next to it was like 5 scoops of like coffee ice cream, and they said that had the same amount of sugar.
I heard that the Frappuccinos are more calories than like a Big Mac or like all this crazy stuff. Yeah, those things are really bad. So anyway, whenever I see people just eating a ton of junk food and they're like, I can't lose weight.
Oh, totally, dude, totally.
It's because you're eating too many otter pops. Like I love me some otter pops. There's a reason I don't work at the factory.
Oh, for sure. Like
although if they're hiring, let me know because I will go work there right now. That's the danger. That's the danger of eating those.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
now that your pop.
Now we're off the rails.
Okay. Things are getting crazy.
Yeah.
Whoa, we're gonna have to edit that out. This is a PG show.
Well,
anyway.
So how are you?
I'm so good. I was telling Roberto before we started the show. So I've been taking these long walks, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to be in Steve Jobs in every way. Mm-hmm. So I put on my black turtleneck, I put on my jeans,
spectacles,
my spectacles. I don't even wear glasses. And I go on these long walks. And also I have been reviewing this thing called the Withings Pulse.
Oh,
and so
I didn't know they put out one. I knew
they just created one.
I knew they have a scale.
So it's really tiny and it's digital and it syncs to this app, and so does the scale. And there's all these things that they release now that are all cloud based, so they'll sync with the cloud.
Yeah.
And then when you open up the app on your iPhone, the app pulls all that information down. It shows you your weight over time. Yeah. So in any case, I've been trying to like walk more.
Is it? Do you notice it when it's on you?
Yeah, but not really. I mean, it's not like super noticeable. But
Because that's probably like the size of maybe like
yeah,
a
I
little.
don't have my iPhone with me. Oh yeah, there it is. Of course, the iPhone has a case on it. It's tiny. I mean, and this is actually just the case.
Yeah.
So like the actual
okay.
thing itself is like there's my finger.
Yeah.
So you could see it's
It's like
really small.
it's like an old iPod Shuffle.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's pretty cool. So in any case, I've been trying to walk more,
Yeah.
especially because it's been nice outside. So I went on a walk, and I usually walk probably 2 or 3 miles, and I know about every 2,000 steps. This thing keeps track of like how many steps you've taken and
It
your
shocks
altitude
you
and
if
stuff.
you don't walk
Yeah,
fast
you
enough.
connect it to your scrotum with the included rubber band. And if you're not walking fast enough, you're just like, ugh! Actually, it doesn't feel that bad.
That's why your voice sounds higher.
Hey guys! So I ended up, I don't know what I was thinking. I think I was just really tired because we were supposed to meet here, and then I realized I was like 1.5 miles away from my house because I walked the opposite direction. So I'm just kind of beat actually after that freaking walk. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a death march. It's
okay.
like a never-ending walk.
We'll
I
try
think I
to-
walked 5 miles.
We'll try to energize. I was like totally not prepared to come down here because I thought
Yeah,
you said
right.
to come here later. So
Oh well.
you're in for a great show. We're so ready to go.
Woo! We had our otter pops.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
What was the thing I was gonna ask you? Oh yeah. So your woman isn't here. Are you like risky business around here?
Oh, I'm always in my underwear. Do. I slide into every room.
On your
I have
socks.
my sunglasses on. Do.
That's all I picture.
No, nothing's changed. I just work and
Yeah.
work. A little bit of play,
And then-
mostly work.
And sliding around. In
And
your
sliding
socks.
around in my socks. It's like an ice skating rink in here now.
Well, let's get into the shoe.
Let's do it.
Okay. So
Okay, let's start with this. So, by the way, we're going to do our Netflix review after this, so that'll be cool. But I thought this was an interesting place to start. So, Microsoft just announced a major reorganization. I mean, really major. This is a big deal for them.
tell me about it.
So they're going to be shifting away to doing things the way that they had previously done them by focusing on products. So they would have people focus on Windows, they'd have people focus on Office, they'd have people focus on Xbox. They had all these different divisions within Microsoft. And all these different divisions would report on their profitability and like all that kind of stuff, you know, when they would do their financial reporting. Major reorg is happening or has happened. Now they're kind of like moving all these people around. So now actually Microsoft is going to be working a lot more like how Apple works. So instead of focusing on all these different products individually, they're trying to give people, they're trying to make their teams more collaborative. So now they're going to be focusing on OS, so like operating systems, apps, cloud, so like services like iCloud, that type of thing, or SkyDrive for Microsoft.
Sure.
And then devices.
Yeah.
So-
because they do have some
And
products.
they're
out
getting
there.
more and more into devices. So I thought
They
this
sell
is
really well.
Yeah, that Surface. Oh my goodness, that thing's selling like crazy. So I thought this was interesting because Microsoft is becoming more like Apple, and it's obviously working very well for Apple. And I think it also means that we're going to start seeing a lot more Microsoft branded products
They have to get into that though.
where they're controlling the hardware
Yeah.
and the software.
Yeah, I think that's their next step forward. Because I mean, a lot we've seen now that the things the way that the computer industry has shifted. It's like that's where they're gonna make their profits now. Their profits aren't gonna come from just being on everybody's computer anymore. You know.
Yeah.
So
You know what's interesting though? Like, I mean, they make a ton of money from their software, especially Office and Windows. And Xbox is very popular, but I heard that the profit that Microsoft made from Microsoft Office last year, or maybe last quarter, I'm not sure which, was more than the entire revenue that the Xbox division made.
wow.
Just to put it in perspective, and that's a lot of money, obviously. So,
But you know they have a huge installed base too, so I mean
Yeah.
that's a big deal too.
they also have a lot of OEM partners, though. They're selling computers based on Microsoft's operating system. So it's kind of weird because you're going to be selling them your software as a license, but then you're going to come out and release your own product as well
compete with it.
to compete with them.
Right, yeah.
Which seems kind of strange.
I don't know. What do you think about that? Because, like, I've heard theories about why they need to go into doing that, but maybe I don't quite understand why.
I think it's awesome.
Is it an Apple? Is it a ploy to be more like Apple, where they control everything else?
I think that's exactly what it is. Yeah.
But what is the reason? Because you get more money out of it?
I think that they have realized that in order for them to kind of sustain themselves, they can no longer just sell software licenses. Like, they have to control the entire product experience.
So at what point did the bottom drop out of that model? Because that used to be like...
I don't think it's dropped out, but I think that it's trending downwards. If you look at PC sales, they keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and people are buying more iPads, people are buying more iPhones. And, you know, the Surface hasn't sold well, Windows Phone hasn't sold well.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time as Apple products become more popular and Windows products become less popular that Microsoft has a major problem on their hands. I think this is like a 10 to 15 year decision. That they're looking 10 or 15 years down the road, and they're like, we have got to reverse this trend.
So where are they going to fit in? Because I mean, like, Apple is, you know, software and hardware, and they've always been that way. That's like in their DNA to do both. And then Google comes along and they're like, everyone can have our software for free, right? So I mean, that kind of messes up, you know, Microsoft's model of like, you had to license our software and we're a software layer for every device, right? They never even got their foot into the mobile market for that, right? They could have basically replicated their desktop strategy on mobile, but they never did, right? So where is their position going forward?
I think they're actually very well positioned because of Xbox, frankly, because Xbox is going to be in almost every home, I think.
Okay.
I think it's going to be that popular. So imagine having a device that works seamlessly with your phone, it works seamlessly with your computer. I think that's a major boon for them to be able to sell these devices that all speak to each other, that all work together well. It's like the Apple ecosystem, right? You have an iPhone, it works great with your Apple TV, it works great with your iPad, it works great with your Mac. Everything is synced through iCloud. I think that's where Microsoft is headed.
So, but you're a big Xbox fan, but you're also an Apple fan. Do you think that you would end up, you know...
No.
You know, I mean, really?
No,
like,
I don't.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, that sounds all well and good, but I don't know very many people that are going to be like, my Xbox is so great that I'm going to go buy that Windows phone, you know?
Yeah,
and
me
like,
either.
I mean, I would much rather have... I would much rather have a seamless interface with my phone and my personal computer, not my phone and my entertainment system.
Me too, especially because Microsoft has released the Smart Glass app on iOS. So you're going to be able to do a lot of things with your Xbox, even though you're on iOS. That's a great point. I don't know.
Do you think they're maybe just comfortable being like another flavor? Like, they're not gonna...
What do you mean?
They're just going to be another flavor. There's going to be Apple, there's going to be Android, and there's going to be the tiny sliver that still wants Windows Phone.
I don't think they're comfortable that way. I think that this is a move to kind of put themselves in positions where maybe their devices can become more popular. I think they have a lot of work to do. This is probably just like step one, and this is changing direction. Here's what we're going to do from now on.
Yeah.
But this is going to be something that's they're going to have to work really hard at for years and years and years.
So I mean, this begs the bigger question. Like, Microsoft has never really had arguably they've never really had their like cool moment. Maybe like in the early '90s, I think you said, but. Is there a way that they can reinvent themselves to be like the hot, cool product for the mainstream? And what steps do they need to do to get there? You know, is there a way to get there? I mean, like, you know, because they feel like they still retain their core of like very nerdy and, you know, not really like user friendly in any way or anything like that. So they just keep they like stick to that almost, you know.
Yeah,
It's like they're still fumbling around, you know. They're always kind of like that, like they're always never like they're never broken out of that, right?
Yeah.
So
they've had some really huge missteps.
Is there anything that they can do in your mind, like if you could think of like some things that they could change?
I do. I think they need to retire Steve Ballmer.
Yeah.
Steve Ballmer needs to leave the company. I think he's a great executive, but I think he represents an era that is kind of passing. And he was actually supposed to retire, I think, a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. And this whole reorg thing happened, and with Don Matrick leaving, I think he's on until 2018. Don't quote me on that. So I think that it would help if Baumdog left. I think he's great, but I think he needs to go. And they need to replace him with somebody that is truly a visionary and who is somewhat inspiring and not faux inspiring. Like, hey, I'm here to run this company. Like, they have to come in and do good work.
Yeah.
And that's also what Microsoft needs to do. They need to consistently do great work. And I think it would be cool if they would create like a hardware brand that wasn't so Microsoft branded. So Xbox, for instance.
Yeah, that's a great example.
It's a very separate culture and a very separate mentality and team that does all that stuff for Xbox. And it doesn't feel like Office. It doesn't feel like Windows 8. It just is totally different. And I think it's very cool. Like, that brand is actually cool. And if they did that with another product, so if they came out with a tablet that was actually a really great tablet, and they weren't like, this is a Microsoft product, you know, like this is just the Surface, or maybe even started like a new like holding company to kind of like pull away from that whole Microsoft branding and let Microsoft do the more mature stuff like Office, Windows, but then create like a younger, cooler brand.
Yeah.
To create their hardware.
Yeah.
And I think that would really help them. What do you think?
I agree every point. I think that, like, yeah. I probably would have just rehashed it. But yeah. I really do, because I mean, you're right. Ballmer is, you know, he's just kind of ubiquitous with that old, you know, old Microsoft, like Windows 95 era. You know, he just kind of like got grandfathered into that role, and now, you know, it just needs some new blood, but a good new blood, right?
Yeah.
That's a big deal, you know? It's like, and who knows, maybe we'll see an era of like the Microsoft where they go like Yahoo and they have a new stupid CEO every 2 years or whatever. You know,
that could happen. That could happen.
But it's tough because, you know, it's the companies that we love, like Apple and Microsoft, are very reflective of their founders, right? Like, they're very reflective of what their founders were like.
Yep.
And so, is that mine or yours?
I think that might be my phone. It actually might be my iPad.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you guys can even hear that. It's blowing up.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, I think it's hard because it's like there has to be. It was always so prominent that, you know, that Microsoft was like this and Apple's like that. And it's gonna take some work to like really, you know, but I don't know. They gotta start though, you know, like Apple, when Steve came back, they at least got the ball rolling on making Apple cool again, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft hasn't really done that, you know. It's like everybody's kind of like, when are they gonna do that? Apple was just like, let's put out this new rebranding. It's called Think Different, and we're gonna start from here, right? And maybe looking back on it, it's not as cool as it was. I know you think it's like kind of corny, like when you look back on some of the early.
It feels very dated, yeah, right.
But it's like at least they started it, and now look where Apple is today, right?
Yeah, and you know, honestly, it's really interesting when you look at Apple's past, like some of the products they came out with, and the branding that they used to have, it wasn't that cool.
Yeah. I
mean, they were much more like Microsoft back in the day. It's really actually kind of amazing how much of a total brand makeover they've had, and that most people don't realize when you look back on the, you know, in the past and all their stuff, like they were kind of an engineering company too, and all like the hardcore fans that are kind of the older guys who really love Apple, I feel like that's the stuff that they love the most, is that engineering stuff from Apple.
Yeah.
And the company has totally changed. It's just very svelte now and slick and well-branded and looks good, and their fonts look great, and it's just not the same company.
Yeah.
It's a better company.
Well, I hope we see some, something cool come out of them. I mean,
Me too.
It's such a different culture, such a different culture. Like, I mean, speaking as going to, walking around on both campuses, you just feel a different energy on both campuses.
Oh, I bet.
So it's just like it's a very different thing. They shouldn't try to be Apple. They need to be their own thing.
They need to be their own thing. Yeah.
So.
And speaking of being your own thing, that was one of the points that one of the guys made. I'm gonna have a terrible time remembering who was who from this documentary that we watched this last week. So Netflix review, for those of you that don't know what that is, we review a movie on Netflix instant streaming, so you can watch it, and we announced it the week before we talked about it. So we announced it last week, and it was called The Bones Brigade, correct?
Yeah.
And then we review it. So hopefully you guys watched it. Bones Brigade, about a documentary, another documentary. We like documentaries about Tony Hawk. And not just about Tony Hawk, and all the really prolific skaters that kind of, I didn't know this before, built this whole culture and community of skateboarding. And I didn't realize how central they were to that whole story.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize Tony Hawk had been skating for so long. These guys that are in this documentary are probably all, what would you say, late 40s, maybe mid 40s?
Late 40s, yeah, probably.
But the documentary is all this footage from
the early 80s.
Like the early 80s when they're doing this.
Because they all started when they were like 12, 13.
I didn't realize that skating had started that early. I thought it had started more like maybe like late 80s, and it had started probably what, mid 70s?
Yeah, mid 70s. It started as like a derivative of surfing. So
right.
A lot of the
which is so funny because no one thinks about that now.
Because it's definitely evolved. But yeah, like the early skate videos is like people really low to the ground and like doing like surfing moves, arms out to the sides, right? Definitely not what you see today.
So nerdy too, with the short shorts and all the gear, and the guys that did it were trying to be very technical with these skateboards.
Or they were really punk rock. There was a two
Or
sides.
they were really punk rock.
Yeah.
I guess that happened, later in the 80s and stuff. And
but what?
It's not a cool sport at all.
So I guess that kind of sets it up. What did you think?
Well, it was 2 hours long, and I think that it probably took me over an hour to really be like, this is good. There's a lot of setup.
Really?
And there's a lot of going into these characters where people are speaking like very emotionally and very passionately about skateboarding. Now, I never really was into skateboarding.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe some of that emotion was lost on me because I felt like some of it was really melodramatic. And then it got great. And the story is very textured and multifaceted. They're telling all these different pieces about how the whole skateboarding community was built and how it almost died and it had a resurgence. Mm-hmm. And it was all being driven by this guy named Stacy Powell. Pilarta, who had a skateboarding company, and he was trying to sell skateboarding gear. And he used to be a professional skateboarder himself and decided that he was going to build this team of skateboarders, I'm assuming to kind of like build his own brand. Yeah. And also to like encourage these kids.
He kind of wanted to have that feel of having a team.
Really smart.
Because he already had, he said he joined the Zephyr team, which was like the most popular one in the 70s. Mm-hmm. And they talked about how when they started to see a little bit of success, it just like disintegrated. So by the time people saw it in magazines, which was the only outlet for skateboards mm-hmm. at the time, it was already over. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I wanted to build something that would last, so I really wanted to build a team, but I didn't want to build a team like what other people were doing at the time, which was, it's to do sponsors and stuff like that. But what they were doing was basically finding all of the best skaters from other teams and like putting them on their own team. But Stacy gathered young amateurs that he thought mm-hmm. that he could build on and like actually, work on, what they already had, like natural talent. And yeah, like you said, built basically like the biggest skateboarder, like well-known names. I mean, Tony Hawk is the most well-known name in skateboards, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's the Tiger Woods of the skateboarding community.
Yeah, so I thought that was really fascinating. 'Cause I love the fact about this movie. I love this movie, by the way, but I love the fact that they have so much vintage footage. That's
They
so
do.
cool because
Yeah.
like back in those days, I mean, like, you know, the video camera was just coming around to be like affordable and to be usable. I mean, like Marty McFly with his video camera,
Right.
And like so they have like skate videos of all of these kids when they're recounting their
Oh yeah, like
stories.
Tony Hawk from
Yeah.
early '80s.
Yeah, when he's like a
Yeah.
little kid, little scrawny kid, and he's like recounting his story, cuts to like the part that he's talking about.
That's
right?
true.
I
That
mean,
was really cool.
that's amazing. I think that's really cool. And so, yeah, so they go through and talk about all these different kids. Was there anyone that struck you the most in terms of like their stories?
As far as their stories go, I think the probably the two that stand out the most, obviously Tony Hawk, because I didn't know anything about Tony Hawk. I just knew that he had like some video games and the guy was freaking super rich and that he was a really good skateboarder. But then the other guy whose name I totally can't remember, I think this guy must have been autistic or
Rodney
something.
Mullen.
Rodney Mullen.
Yeah.
Just this guy who, like I said, I think he was probably like autistic in some way, very unusual guy, very emotional, but would practice for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day. Like sometimes, 9 hours a day he would practice, and he would do like this kind of freestyle skateboard stuff. And this is not like going off ramps.
No,
It's kind of like,
vert.
what's that?
The one that you're talking about that's vert skating.
Yeah, okay, so not vert skating. And he would do like all these crazy tricks just on a skateboard on the ground. And it was really amazing to watch this guy do these things that looked like they really shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, we should look at some of it because, like, man, I mean,
He was amazing.
amazing. That was like a shift in skateboarding because they were talking about, if you were freestyle skating back then,
It was not cool.
yeah, it was not cool. They were like it was like short shorts and
really big
and
pads.
it was like really nerdy and he took it from. He looked at the he looked at the skateboard and said, I can ride this, on the nose. I can ride this on the side. I can ride this, upside down, like all sorts.
Right.
And the thing let's look at a little bit of footage before I keep talking.
Let's doobie it.
Because I definitely looked up one of his videos really recently. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, this guy really invented a lot of these tricks that we know today, like the flat ground ollie, which everybody has to know to be able to skate, or the kick flip, or like all of these tricks that we know now.
Unbelievably quick.
I mean, what the heck?
We caught up with Mr. Incredible recently while he was out here visiting from his native Florida.
I don't know if I would excel at everything I tried. Yeah, I've excelled at skating. It's pretty much my personality. Okay, in school I pretty much excel. It's my personality to try as hard as I can, or else it kills me. With tricks, it hampers me to be around other people a lot. You have to be by yourself. It has to be your own expression. As far as like all these guys, they say, okay, I think about skating all day and all night, and I eventually come up with a trick, and I play with these little toy skateboards. It's useless. You gotta it just comes out. You don't know when you're gonna make it up 5 minutes beforehand. It just comes out if it's pure, if it's a good trick. There's one trick that I learned in 1980, and I suppose it's a real trick. It's a hard trick. It's a solid thing. It's not just a chancy, like, Merry Christmas trick. The helipop, that's a good trick to really do it well. But, of course, my hardest trick is the one I've just learned. I mean...
Dude, I mean, really, like, this guy's... He's one of those, like... He's one of those people that I look at in terms of, like, what do you call it? Like... He reminds me of John Frusciante from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the guitarist, who's like, crazy, like a mad scientist, crazy guitar player, but couldn't really function in the rest of the world,
Yeah, like socially awkward, but brilliant at
but
this
like
one thing.
incredible, like huge mind, like no, like it's just can be so dedicated and so focused on his craft, on his passion. I think that like I secretly would love to be somebody like that. I think that is so cool that you can like funnel your entire life into something like that.
That one thing.
I think that's amazing. And Rodney Mullen, this is really old footage of him, but his recounting in this documentary are really, really interesting.
That was one of my favorite parts about the documentary, actually, is hearing these guys talk about developing their craft and then seeing all the footage of them at these really cool competitions. And then when they talked about the animal chin video, and they like were just making this awful skateboarding video that they were acting in, and it was never supposed to be a big deal, and people just loved it. And it was about this Asian, like this wonton animal chin Asian skateboarder who's like this mythical skateboarder they're trying to find.
It's like its whole B movie.
Dude, you can never do that now. It was like people were like, that's so racist, because the guy had like the triangle hat on and like the Fu Manchu, like the long old freaking Asian beard.
I think it was interesting though that they came around, and then they came around like I said during the time of VHS video.
Yeah.
And then they were able to the whole Bones Brigade was able to like put out these videos, and people get to know these kids. Like it's almost like a precursor to social media, like where people get to know somebody on Twitter or on
the marketing was genius.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Talk about this.
Oh my goch, this guy. The guy who does the documentary is the guy who was coaching.
Yeah.
Is the guy who created the what are they called?
The Bones Brigade.
Bones Brigade. Thank you. And he's the one that helped market them and stuff, and just really, really, really ahead of his time as far as marketing these guys and their skills. I mean, created a really cool brand, the Bones Brigade, which has nothing to do with skateboarding whatsoever. And the way he would do their advertisements and stuff, I think I learned a lot just from watching him, because he's so intelligent in the way he did things. It was really remarkable seeing how these guys went from just being these kids to these, business brands essentially.
Yeah. And first class athletes, like
I think that was kind of the foundation, right?
But it's just amazing. They show a montage at the very end of them like as little kids on their skateboard to like when they're in their late 20s, and they look like doing these incredible tricks. And you don't think about it because like you and I, we're both just like, oh, Tony Hawk, we know that guy because we've heard of him. He's everywhere, right?
Yeah, right.
We didn't know that he started as like a kid, like a little kid,
Yeah, all these guys started as kids.
I think the Rodney Mullen story is really interesting. He mentions it in this old clip of he said that he learned about Beethoven when he was going deaf, and when he was going deaf, he went into isolation, and that's where he made all of his best work. And that basically is what Rodney did. His dad built him like an outdoor pavement where which was I think air conditioned, or it was shaded because he lived in Florida. And that's where he would spend forever, like getting up super early in the morning when it was still cool outside, like 2 a.m, and start skateboarding out there. And that's where that's where him retreating, like to find himself within. It was where he was learning everything. And that's, the guy
was practicing.
The guy created the vocabulary for modern skateboarding, right?
Right.
So that's pretty amazing. I think that almost comes back to our last episode. It's like, you don't really need to try to be somebody or try to feed off somebody else's thing. You need to look within and see what it is about you.
That's very true. And I was thinking that same thing. Thanks for all the comments about that last episode. I know you guys tweeted and emailed us, and those are great. That you guys enjoyed that conversation. Yeah, I think it's remarkable that these guys, you can kind of make the comparison to being a musician, as you just did, because you learn the vocabulary, and then once you have that mastered, you start creating these derivatives of things that didn't exist before. Yeah. And then after a certain set of derivatives, you're doing something that just has never existed before. It's become so different. Yeah. And that people see you, and so cool. That thing becomes uniquely yours. And those kinds of tricks are all you see in this documentary, because these kids, they master all these tricks and they learn tricks from each other, and then they start creating all this stuff that never existed before. Yeah. And I didn't know that they're the ones that created a lot of the tricks and coined the names of a lot of the tricks that you see everybody do.
Which is so cool if you think about it. Like, they were just teens.
Yeah.
Right? Coming up and naming, like, oh, I just did that. I'm going to name it that. And now it's like, that's solidified forever, right? I mean, that's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, I mean, I've always been just a big admirer of skateboarding. I've always thought it was a really cool thing. I thought the culture was really cool. You know, it was never something I could fully get into. I was actually talking to a friend. I was like, you got to see this documentary. Did you ever like skating? He's like, yeah, my mom would never let me do it, you know?
Yeah, my mom did. I don't think anyone's moms would let them do it. Because, I mean, these guys all have fake teeth.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of them bit it.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to go through a lot of pain.
Yeah.
Like, even this Mullins guy has a freaking silver tooth. It's either silver or gold.
Yeah. Right in the front.
Right in the front. And I think Tony Hawk knocked his front teeth out.
Mm-hmm. He talks about that.
I think it's kind of like your rite of passage.
But he was like, as soon as I knocked my teeth out, I was like, I know I'm not going to stop doing this, you know? Like, that kind of attitude.
That's the key. You have to, if you want to get good at something, you have to punch your own teeth out and then continue. That's how people know that you're serious.
Yeah.
Until you punch your own face,
I think it's
really just not serious.
I think it's pretty interesting, though, just the fact that, you know, this group of skateboarders stuck together that long and learned from each other for that long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, you know, I mean, what's another thing that's not that, like something like hip hop is pretty recent, a recent original creation. And that is like all over the place, right? It isn't like, oh, this rap group did it all and they like started the whole thing, right? Mm-hmm. This is very unique that they were like all friends and they all actually like built up this entire industry to now where it's like, you know, a money industry, right?
Yeah.
It's very different. They even said like, I think that we, you know, pioneered even how to make money off of this, you know?
Yeah, that was one of the things I really loved about this documentary as well, is seeing skateboarding go from something no one did to this really popular sport with this huge community around it.
The funniest thing in this documentary is the George Harrison's son.
Oh, that's right. I don't know. I guess they were supposed to watch it, so we can spoil it. So they're in the UK, I think, right?
Doing a tour. They're already getting huge, right?
Everyone loves them. And this kid comes up. Yeah, at this point, their tours are huge. Yeah. And everyone comes to these competitions. They're super popular. Skateboarding has kind of had its second coming.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it now. So these guys are kind of like super popular. This kid walks up to them at one of these competitions and really likes what they're doing, and he invites them over to this house for dinner, and they're kind of like, okay, this is a little weird. And then somebody walks up to him, he's like, you should go, that's George Harrison's kid.
Yeah.
And then the next scene, they're like taking a picture with like the former Beatle. They're all in his house.
And then it cuts to the son, and he's there talking about how cool it was.
He's
I was like, that's the funniest like setup, because you don't expect that, right? And then the son is like kind of like, he looks exactly like George Harrison, except he's like a little bit more punky, and he's like,
way more punky.
That was like the coolest time ever, and no one believed me. And you're like, that is so freaking
your dad's
cool.
a Beatle, and no one gives a crap about that. They're just like, think it's cool that you had the Bones Brigade at your house. Tony Hawk.
So,
it's one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
I thought it was really cool that these guys never succumbed to the whole drugs, party, beer lifestyle. Mm-hmm. A lot of the people that skated with them, like their peers that had other groups that weren't the Bones Brigades, kind of partook of all that stuff. And no one's watching a documentary about those guys, right? I'm sure they're actually probably out there.
There are a few very gnarly ones, but I'll tell you about that.
But a lot of
later.
these guys, like one of the guys in the documentary had been to prison several times. I just feel like I have nothing wrong with those things, but everything in moderation. But these kids, I mean, they just stayed focused on what they were doing, and they put their energies into getting better at what they did and honing their craft. And it really does tie back to our last week's conversation about how, unless you're doing something that you love, that you just want to spend hours doing, there's just no way you can get good enough to be, you know, at the top, because there's going to be someone out there who really loves what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to spend every
they're going to work harder than you.
And they're going to work harder than you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who was it? Lance Mountain was talking about how they would get made fun of for that. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, but that's, you know, the people that are saying that, when you start to get into like partying and, you know, whatever, like all the kind of other things that aren't doing the skateboarding, it's because it's not rad enough for you. It's not
Yeah,
cool
it's like
enough.
not fulfilling for you.
Yeah, you know, so it's like that's why you're doing it. You know, that's not, but he's like, yeah, but if you actually like want to step up and actually go against us, you're gonna lose. You know, because
Right.
you're not
this is
doing
all
it,
we're
right?
doing.
I thought his story was really kind of touching, that he was not considered like. He was like the lower end of all of these guys, all of these like insane prodigy kids, and he was just kind of like
a good skateboarder,
but kind of like
not the best.
Yeah, like kind of just, you know, he was kind of like us, you know, like you could relate to this guy. I thought that was interesting because they showed him in the videos, and they had interviews of these other people that were saying like, if I would have just saw Tony Hawk and Steve Caballero and Rodney Mullen, I would have been like, man, skating is really tough, and I don't think I can do it.
Yeah.
But since Lance Mountain was in these videos, and he just was kind of like skating and having fun, he made me think that, oh, it's enough to love skateboarding. I don't have to.
I can do this.
Yeah, I don't have to be like insane to want to pick this.
Yeah,
up,
that's a good point, right? Because you see some guy just totally shredding.
Yeah,
you're like, I can never do that.
That's kind of
right?
like,
you're so far from it.
Yeah, you look at somebody playing guitar or anything, right? Anything where it takes like crazy genius chops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you almost get intimidated to go and try.
Yeah, you're like, what's the point? I'm
Right.
never gonna be that good.
So I thought that was great. But anyway, I think you guys should definitely watch.
Yeah,
it.
if you haven't already, go check it out. The Bones Brigade on Netflix.
Yeah.
We're running low on the juice, so
Okay.
just FYI, keep an eye on that. But we're wrapping up.
Yeah.
We don't normally wrap up with cats, but here's something that you probably don't know about me. I love cats. I love cats. And I was on Reddit last night, and somebody had posted a picture of this really unusual cat breed, and it set me on this path that had me discovering the largest cat breeds in the world. And I thought previously that the largest cat breed was like a Maine. I think a Maine Coon is what they're called, and they're giant. They're like, 25 pounds. But then I did a search for largest cat breeds, and I discovered a new cat breed. So this thing has recently been acknowledged by whatever cat association out there, gives the approval with their wand for new breeds. And it's the largest domesticated cat breed in the world that you can purchase.
Okay.
So this cat breeder mated a house cat with what they call a serval cat, which is a wild cat. And I don't know if it was like a jaguar or a lion or what the hell it was.
How many cats they killed during the process?
Yeah, I don't know how many cats got their butt stretched in this process, but these videos, I was like, this is the most beautiful animal I have ever seen. So let's start with, wait, is it this one? Let's start with this one.
Can you make the volume up? Can you make it big? Whoa, it's huge.
Look at the size of that thing.
It's like a big dog.
You know that, right?
Dude, I
Look at this thing, dude.
I think he would probably kill him if he could.
I give you all these treats. Are the kids giving you a hard time now?
Is that not just like the most beautiful animal you've ever seen?
He's not gonna bother you.
Okay, he just goes on petting this one.
Okay.
Saturday morning.
And then his wife comes in.
So-
breakfast.
You have to be like insanely rich or something.
So I'll tell you how much these things cost. Hey, all right, sorry guys, we're back. Our sound went out there. We got the problem fixed. We had to turn the light on to get some light on our faces. Roberto grabbed an otter pop. So anyway, about this cat. As I was saying before, audio totally shut off. So there's 5 different levels of sizes. So there's F1 through F5. The F1 level means that it was a house cat breeded with the actual serval cat, so the wild cat. Those ones are generally the largest.
probably most expensive.
Dude, okay, so, and then they get smaller from there, like F2, F3, F4. It means that their parents were savanna cats, but they weren't mated directly with the wild animals. So take a guess how much an F1 savanna cat costs.
$15,000.
Higher.
Really? 20,000.
Higher.
40,000.
Oh, no, dude, now you're going exponentially too high. So the F1, which is the largest one, as I said, the price for, I think, a female is up to $22,000, and the price for a male is up to $25,000.
How much are like a purebred golden retriever?
I don't know. My guess would be maybe a couple grand.
$2,000?
Maybe.
Okay.
Rarely have I ever heard of an animal costing more than $2,000 or $3,000.
Okay.
Like a French bulldog, those are really popular. A purebred's probably $2,200, $2,500.
Still really pricey.
So $25,000. But this thing's crazy. I mean, it's like you saw it. It's like a dog, except it's a cat. Super friendly, kind of a pack animal. I really want one. And I was
put
set.
Down the money.
I was set. I was like, I'm gonna get one of these for sure.
and
then I looked at the price, and I was like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way I could ever afford one of these.
Your dog would run away the next day.
They said that the cats are very friendly, and if you have another animal, they'll probably end up sleeping together in the same bed.
Cats are kind of weird though, man, because cats are so independent. That it's interesting that you said that it acts like a dog.
It does. They
Because
said it follows you around the house.
You would think that it would be like, you know what? I'm pretty big, and I don't like the way you're looking at me. You know, but really, I mean,
no, this cat's totally different than a normal cat.
I think cats are fine. I actually grew up with them. You know, like we didn't have dogs. We had cats like when I was a kid, and but the one thing I don't like about cats is like you'll be like petting them, and then they'll just be like. You know, like I hate
or
when
peace out.
Yeah, like I hate when they just bug out on you. So I'm like, if I had one that was this big, I don't think I'd want to feel the slap of that claw.
That's true. Can you imagine if that thing scratched you? It hurts so bad.
It'd be like a dog scratching you, but
with sharp animal like cat claws. They said this thing likes to be walked. So you put a harness on it, and you can take it for a walk outside, and it actually really enjoys that. It plays fetch.
What?
And this thing is like a dog. I'm telling you, it's like the perfect animal. It's like a big, beautiful mini leopard, except it acts just like a dog. It just loves to be around people.
So can it guard you like a dog? That's where the kicker is.
Yeah, you think my dog's gonna guard you? My dog will lick your killer's face and then go home with him and show him unconditional love.
So that would be cool though. You'd be like, get him, and then it's like,
Did you hear it hissing in the video?
No.
It doesn't hiss like a normal cat.
Oh wait, yeah, I did hear that.
It has a very low pitched, like big cat hiss. It's like.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems kind of
F1 Savannah, YouTube it. It's an amazing creature. Anyway, we should probably wrap it up, eh?
It reminds me of the Catman. Do you remember him?
I'm the Catman.
No. Like look up Catman on Google.
Catman?
Yeah.
How about Cat Matt? That's not what you meant, is it?
No. That guy.
Oh my gosh.
Click on images. He's actually from here. I saw him one time at the Apple Store.
Oh.
Click on that one. He converted his face to look like a cat. That's the kind of guy that would like be in bed with that cat.
No, that cat would not sleep with this guy. Dude, what would motivate you to do that to your face? I have no idea.
Love of cats.
What? I have a great love of
Check
cats.
back on Airfon.
I want to maintain my humanness and appreciate the cat for being a cat.
Okay.
Yeah. In any case, all right, let's wrap it up, shall we?
Yes, sir.
Hey, you can follow us on Twitter if you like. I'm at Airfon. Roberto is
At Roberto Ayos.
and it's just ERFON. And of course, if you want to subscribe to the show, if you're not already, you can do so on iTunes. Just search for User Friendly. We have audio and video.
Mm-hmm.
Sucks to be an audio subscriber this week. You're going to have to Google your own F1 Savannah cat. But we have the audio version. It's only like 25 megs, so it's an easy download. Mm-hmm. And you can watch us on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/.
User-friendly show.
User-friendly show?
Do you want to talk about this?
On YouTube?
Well, yeah, we were talking about possibly putting it on the Throwboy channel.
Oh, so we might end up putting them on the Third Boy channel.
We might do both. I don't know.
We'll probably end up doing both.
I'm getting like more content on my YouTube channel. I started vlogging actually. I'm gonna do like an every other day vlog.
Oh wow.
So I thought maybe if people like the vlogs, maybe they'll want to have it on there. But I don't want to upset anyone, so I might put it in both
You should just
places.
do it. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do one or the other. Maybe both.
Okay.
Anywho, skis. So
YouTube.com/throwboypillows, by the way, if you want to
okay,
go that.
for that channel, exactly.
But yeah, I think. And just like us on Facebook because we post everything there. So facebook.com/user-friendly-show. And I think that's it.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for watching, guys. And until next time, we'll meow you on the next
flip
time.
side.